Going to call to order the Finance Committee meeting for May the 20th, 2019. Item number 1, please.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of May 6, 2019.
After reviewing the minutes, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes presented?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve minutes. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Ivory Van. Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 1 passed. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments May 2nd, 2019 through May 10th, 2019.
We have a report from the Purchasing Committee.
Yes, Purchasing Committee did meet this afternoon, did review all claims. I do appreciate staff, again, answering all the questions. Well, I would make a recommendation for approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the claims list. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 2 passed. Item number 3, please.
Consider approval of resolution number 2765, declaring a parcel of property located in the 1500 block of Cherry Street, more particularly described in the resolution, as surplus to the needs of the city, and authorize the conveyance of said property or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, the property is located within the 1500 block of Cherry Street. The abutting property owner, Mrs. Montgomery, requested the property. Since it is a buildable lot, we did post it for the 10 days as required by the resolution. We only received one bid. It was from Ms. Montgomery in the amount of $363. So we recommend approval of the resolution declaring the property surplus and authorize the conveyance to Ms. Montgomery. Glad to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 3 passed. Item number 4, please.
Consider approval of a 5-year commercial lease between the City of Muskogee and American Vending Solutions for the 6,400 square foot metal building located at 615 East Davisfield Road at Muskogee Davis Regional Airport, beginning June 1st, 2019 and ending May 31st, 2024, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, this is a 5-year lease. It is between the City of Muskogee and American Vending. It is for a 6,400 square foot metal building. This metal building's actually been vacant, unoccupied for the past 11 years. It is located out at the airport. American Vending plans to use the building for storage, distribution of food, drinks, and vending machines. The lease amount is for $6,408 per year. It has a 2% increase built into the lease during the lease period, 5 years. The airport's agreed to separate the gas and electric, in other words, get their own meters to this hangar or this metal building. American Vending is going to make some improvements themselves to the structure. They're going to install insulation, heat and air system, security system, and some other improvements. They will be responsible for all the maintenance during the lease. The lease was reviewed by the City Attorney's Office, and the Airport Board did recommend approval. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion?
My understanding, this is where the trolley is being stored.
That is
we
correct.
made arrangements for it.
If I may address that, sir. Yes. We have worked with the Three Rivers Museum, who have been helping coordinate that project. We've got an ongoing effort to find a new home for that and to continue the restoration.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're a part of that. That kind of started from the city and then been passed back and forth, and want to help them out in preserving that.
Yes.
Well, and this is going to be a good deal for the airport, because if not, the building was going to sit there with, like you said, with the trolley, and they're going to find a new home for that. But when we were at the airport board and we were discussing this, the improvements that they're going to do to this facility and the business that's going to come out of there, and my question was, is it going to be an airport use also? Because, you know, a lot of the things out there have that. This is not one of those buildings. but he is going to set up a card and stuff at the airport, and that if they need stuff to restock their jets and stuff, their planes as they come in and out, he'll go up there immediately and make sure that they have those things as well. That's another service that he's going to try to provide out there. So I thought that was a neat thing, that just a different angle that he was wanting to try for using that building out there.
I think it's a really good deal because it's another income for the airport board. I just want to make sure we're making some provisions for that. We just need a place for them to work on it every once in a while inside there. Thank you, Chairman.
Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Kell.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 4 passed. Item number 5, please.
Consider approval to recall and reverse a declaration of surplus personal property of a 2005 Sterling flush truck, VATCon, serial number 2FZAATDC 25AU09963 from resolution number 2729, and further authorizing the execution of a corrected resolution regarding the same or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee. This is our old VATCon truck, and as a testament to our pollution control crews, they actually took very good care of it, and it is still in a usable condition. Our street department has asked, and I agree that we could use it during the fall and spring when we need to clean storm drains, ditch drains on the sides, so that we can keep the stormwater flowing without borrowing the one from pollution control, as it's very busy at the same periods of time. So we're asking to take it off of surplus, and we'll assign it to the street department. I'll be happy to answer any questions and recommend approval.
Why was it put on the surplus if we thought we could use it now?
It was added as that was the plan to go when we got the new one in, but as we looked at it, and we were looking at equipment we needed for street department, it made more sense to keep this versus buying something different, trailer mounted or anything. We can use this for several years to keep us going in that vein.
Okay.
So right now, we kind of hand dig out the storm drains sometimes. This makes it a lot faster. We hadn't been doing that previously, so we realized this piece of equipment could be used in a different way that we hadn't used it before. So that's really the purpose.
Well, and I'm glad that we're keeping something and not surplusing it out. I was always worried about that. Sometimes we surplus stuff out that maybe we shouldn't surplus out, and sometimes we surplus stuff out that we definitely shouldn't surplus out. That has a value to it. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Have any discussion on this item? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Kell.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 5 passed. Item number 6, please.
Consider approval of lowest bid for wastewater treatment plant biosolids removal and cleaning of digester number 2 to Tonto Environmental LLC in the amount of $87,712, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee. This is biosolids removal of number 2 digester. If you recall, we have 3 digesters. Number 1's in service. We recently cleaned out and repaired number 3 that's ready to go into service, which gives us the opportunity to get number 2 cleaned. And it did experience some damage in the cold months in January, where the roof got unnecessary pressure and broke off in some places in the concrete. So we need to get it cleaned out, determine the damage so that we can get it repaired. So if you recall, we took bids. Well, we only got 1 bid. We rejected those bids. This time we have 3 bids. Much better bid at $87,000 and change. And be happy to answer any questions and recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Kell.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 6 passed. Item number 7, please.
Consider approval of lowest bids for aggregate and asphalt road materials as follows. 1, Kempstone, A, number 2 cover material at $16 per ton delivered. B, aggregate at $12.25 per ton delivered. C, 3-inch pit run at $13 per ton delivered. D, number 67 washed rock at $15.25 per ton delivered. E, 12-inch pit run at $16.50 per ton delivered. F, limestone screenings at $4 per ton picked up and $9.85 per ton delivered. 2, Muskogee sand, A, asphalt sand at $5.50 per ton picked up and $9.50 per ton delivered. B, fill sand at $4 per ton picked up and $8 per ton delivered. 3, Tulsa asphalt, A, asphaltic concrete type B and C at $48 per ton picked up. B, type C at $61 per ton delivered. 4, Youngman rock, type B at $59.25 per ton delivered to our yard and $60 per yard delivered to the job site. 5, Hutchins construction, cold patching material at $84 per ton delivered, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley?
Yes, Chairman and Committee, this is our yearly bids we take for our road materials. This is asphalt and any aggregates that we use, sand, gravel, and such. In each case, we've taken the lowest bid. We've used all of these contractors before, and have no issues with the pickups and deliveries. And the bids are in line with previous years' low bids. And we recommend approval and be happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 7 passed. Item number 8.
Consider approval of the lowest bid to Muskogee Ready Mix for concrete materials as follows. A, 3,500 PSI concrete at $94 per cubic yard. B, 3,500 PSI high early strength concrete at $98 per cubic yard. C, 3,000 PSI concrete at $92 per cubic yard. D, Portland dry mason mix at $10 per sack. E, flow fill concrete at $65 per cubic yard. And F, city pay dray at $60, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Committee, this is our yearly bid on concrete, materials related to concrete. Muskogee Ready Mix was a low bidder. They have been for several years. We've been happy with their service and materials. The prices are in line with previous year, and we recommend approval.
Move for approval?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 8 passed. Item number 9, please.
Consider approval of contracts to lowest bidders. 1, Grass Monkey for base bid number 1 in the amount of $5,998 per month. And 2, S&B Services for base bid number 2 in the amount of $700.75 twice a month. And base bid number 5 in the amount of $300 per week, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Committee. Of our mowing, this is one of our yearly mowing contracts, or actually 3 of them. We S&B did have all of these contracts, and they elected not to renew because they didn't like doing the drainage channels anymore. So we rebid everything that they had because they are the low bidder on 2 of these. But the bids came in line with what we previously paid. There's listings of what these different contracts are mowing. We recommend approval, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 9 passed. Item number 10.
Consider approval of best bid from Southern Material Handling, bid number 2, in the amount of $34,263 for the purchase of one 6,000-pound forklift for fiscal year 2018-2019 for the Fleet Management Department, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Swepton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is a budgeted item, will be used throughout the entire city. We went out for bids. We received 3 bids and 1 no bid, so a total of 4. One of those bids was outside of budget, over budget. So the 2 remaining items, one was a company that we, along with everybody I talked to, was unfamiliar with. The company is based out of Denver, Colorado. They had no units in service in the state of Oklahoma that we could go look at. They also did not have a dealer or distributorship in the state of Oklahoma. So everything would be handled out of Denver, Colorado. If we had an issue, that unit would have to go all the way back to Denver. So those were some major concerns for us. So we recommend the next bidder, which is the Southern Material Handling for a Toyota forklift. Southern Material is a local Muskogee vendor. They've been here since the mid-'70s. Their parent company is out of Tulsa, and they've been there since 1948. So we're very confident that we'll receive good service after the sale for many years to come. We recommend approval on the bid number 2 for the amount of $34,263. Be happy to answer any additional questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any questions or discussion?
I had one question. Mr. Swepton, you answered a lot of questions with us in the Finance Committee, but one thing I failed to ask is, what is the warranty on this item?
The base warranty, I have it written down, is, and it's in the packet as well, if you allow me to go back and get it so I don't misquote
Okay.
real quick, because they all are different from
Okay.
manufacturer.
Because the reasons for that rejection is very important, and I really do appreciate you looking into that, but I just wanted to find out what the base warranty was on the one from Southern Material Handling.
So the company out of Denver, their base warranty was 12 months, 2,000 hours. The local company, the Toyota brand forklift, is 12 months, 2,000 basic, and the powertrain is 36 months, 6,000 hours. So it's quite a significant
Yep.
longer period for the recommended bid.
Yeah. The other one wouldn't have been worth much at all, so I
No.
really do appreciate your work on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 10 passed. Item number 11.
Consider approval of the purchase of one 2019 Freightliner 10-wheel dump truck with plow and spreader attachments in the amount of $157,558 from Premier Truck Group from Oklahoma State Contract for the fiscal year 2018-2019 for the Public Works Department, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Swepton?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is a budget item for the Public Works Department. As stated in the background information, we currently have 2 aged 10-wheel dump trucks. This will replace one of the mini dump trucks that we have. That will be evaluated and a determination made when we get the new unit in service. This is for a 10-wheel, the extra large dump truck with the snow plow and all the sand spreader equipment. We reviewed many options for this. This is the lowest option and the best option out of everything that we looked at. This truck is in stock, which they normally have a current lead time of up to 1 year. So this will allow us to get something in service quite quickly, which is a huge bonus. So we recommend approval on this unit from Premier Truck Group in the amount of $157,558, and all items are state contract pricing. Be happy to answer any further questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Questions? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs. Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 11 passed, and with that passing, that is the final item for our Finance Committee.
I will now call to order our Public Works Committee meeting of May the 20th, 2019. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of May 6, 2019.
Everybody's had time to review.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 1 passes. Item number 2.
Consider approval of ordinance number 4071A of the City of Muskogee, Oklahoma, amending Chapter 78, Traffic and Vehicles, adding Article 21, Golf Carts and Utility Vehicles, Section 78-740, Definitions, 78-741, Use of Golf Carts and UTVs on City Streets and Highways, 78-742, Registration, Inspections, and Permits, 78-743, Penalties by providing for codification, repeal, or inseverability, or take other necessary action.
Counselor Hall.
Well, some of you that was on city council a year or so ago remember this was brought before us, and we had several of the businesses here in Muskogee from, and I won't mention their names, but they were wanting this passed, and even I had some skepticism about passing this ordinance to allow ATVs and side-by-sides and everything on our streets. And so I kind of went back to over the last year and a half and went back and started looking at the different laws and the ordinances that other cities have. And I took in, and at that time, Chief of Police Rex Eskridge came up and talked to us about this, and he was not in favor of this because he said it was unsafe because at the time the ordinances, the way we were looking at it, did not set aside for the rules and stuff that we were wanting to put in this one. At that time, it allowed a 14-year-old motorcycle driver to drive a quad runner or something like that on our streets, and I thought, well, I'm not in favor of that, and there wasn't a lot of safety precautions in place for someone to drive these vehicles on our city streets. So when we went back and looked at this, and I contacted a couple different cities close by, I wasn't even sure I liked their rules in this. And so I went back to Roy, who is kind of the guy that always helps us out a little bit when we don't understand what we're wanting. And what I was looking at is not allowing quad runners on our city streets, but a side-by-side and a golf cart. The reason why is because a few weeks ago in my neighborhood, there was a garage sale going on, and these vehicles were driving up and down my street, and there was younger people riding in them and everything, and I'm going, okay, if this is going to happen and kids are driving these golf carts and stuff, I would definitely like to see some kind of ordinance put in place that if we have citizens that think that this is the best way to get around through the neighborhoods and stuff, maybe we should have an ordinance set aside that regulates these items, since we've got people doing it anyway. On a Friday night at a football game, we could have four to five of these things pull up to the stadium, and they park out front. And so different things, and I was thinking, well, if they have the proper safety equipment on them, blinkers, lights, and some kind of permit that we can look over the vehicle and make sure it's somewhat street safe and street legal for our needs, then maybe we could legalize this just a little bit. And then I got to talking to some people about age. And that was one of Rex Eskridge's questions when we started talking about it a couple years ago, that it was going to be a legal age of 14 years of age. And I talked to Roy about that, and he said we can adjust that, if I'm correct, to make it 18 years of age. So therefore, we don't have a bunch of teenagers still driving around on our city streets if we decide to pass this. One of the other things is we could put require windshields or them to require a helmet driving it. Now, a golf cart may be a little bit different, but an ATV or something, it has seat belts in it. They can come with blinkers and headlights and all the safety stuff that a car has. And then I'm reminded that we have 14-year-olds driving motorcycles on our city streets, because legal age for driving a motorcycle is 14 years of age, and it can't be over a 125cc motorcycle. So, and when I looked at it that way, then I started thinking, maybe this ordinance isn't too bad of an idea anyway. if we go ahead and make it 18 years old, because we got 14-year-olds driving 125cc motorcycles around, and we don't seem to have a whole lot of problems with that. I don't think there is a whole lot of people riding around. I didn't ask for a survey or any kind of report dictating how many 14-year-old kids we have riding motorcycles, but me being on the streets, I don't see that many of them. So therefore, I don't think if we apply this ordinance to being 18 years age or older, I don't think we're going to have a lot of people driving these vehicles. For one thing is, instead of a motorcycle, you have a side-by-side that has a roll cage in it and not just two wheels, they're on four wheels, and they're going to be an older driver. It's going to have blinkers and everything like a motorcycle would, plus the seatbelt issues and everything like that. And they will have to follow the streets, the laws of the speed limits of the street and everything. And it'll put a little bit more teeth into it for our police department. I understand that it's not the greatest thing in the world to do, but it's one of those things that I would like to see regulated a little more, and to offer people to do this legally instead of illegally. I don't think there's a whole lot of the police department's going to write a whole lot of citations for someone driving their golf cart on our streets if they're going from neighborhood to neighborhood, but I would like for them to be able to do that legally. I want to open it up for questions right now to any of the councilmen, or discussion, or even our new chief of police, Johnny Teehee. And just for the record, I asked Johnny to come up here and talk to us because I knew that he would probably have a different view of this, and I wanted y'all to hear that as well.
Good evening. Yes, as a police department, we've discussed this at our staff meeting as well. Actually started talking to it as soon as Dan had called me and asked me what my ideas were about it. We've got several concerns with it. One is in the current form, and I appreciate all the work Roy puts into those. I know it's not easy to do, but it would require the police department to handle all the record keeping. It would handle the police department to handle all the inspections. And with regards to all the different things that Councilman Hall's talking about the different rules, you can't do this, 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 or this. That's just more things that as a police officer we'd have to worry about if you did stop someone. A couple of concerns we have is with regards to increase in accidents. Also, just a few years ago, Deputy Chief Cotton had done some research with regards to different towns and different sizes, and the only ones that he found at the time that allowed that, one was a population of 1,300 and the other one's across the river at Fort Gibson, which is about 4,500. No other cities our size has this type of thing. The other bigger concern, and we discussed this as well at staff meeting, is that while it's all well and good, the ones who would go through and follow the proper procedures and they'd get their licensing, they would get all the inspections that they needed, the fact that all of a sudden something comes out with regards to this being okay to do that now is going to have someone in particular areas of town that decides, well, it's not that big a deal, we'll just go ahead and do it. And the one concern that we have, legitimate concern as a police department, is that when that person does that and we try to stop them to pull them over to find out whether or not they're licensed or had been inspected, then we end up in a pursuit. They run. Next thing you know, we end up in a crash and the civil liabilities with regards to that. Because we have chased motorcycles and four-wheelers in the past, and we just think that as a department, if you made that a rule with those saying you can do that, it causes those ones that aren't going to abide by the rules to think they can go ahead and do it as well. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
I've got an observation. It seems to me that it's probably not prudent, be it legal or not legal, to drive one of these vehicles on a major thoroughfare, on a street that's with heavy traffic. Right now, if it's happening, and in neighborhoods, if somebody drives their golf cart over to see their neighbor, it seems to me, or their four-wheeler down the street, in a neighborhood that doesn't have a heavy traffic street, right now, is it kind of no harm, no foul?
Right, and that's one of the things, and I talked to Councilor Hall about that, is that one of the discussions that he had was about in the country club area, they'll drive from the area over to the golf club. Another one was during Halloween. In the different areas, they'll have them out and about during Halloween. It's never been an issue. We haven't stopped people. We hadn't, it's never been an issue. So it was the other thing I told him. I said, it's almost like we're trying to make a rule for something that's not a problem.
So if we just kept the status quo, people who go to their neighbors or go over to the country club, and there's no harm, no foul. Now, obviously, if it were today or yesterday, and somebody's driving a quad down Shawnee, you guys are going to pull them over and say, you need to get the heck off of here, you're going to get killed. But if you're just going, driving your golf cart amongst your neighbors or what have you, if the status quo may be the thing to do.
Yeah, and it also kind of concerns because in my neighborhood, there's a kid that drives a 4-wheeler around. You see him driving, but he don't even abide by the stop signs, and he just
like
kind of
being
runs
on a bicycle.
Huh?
It's like being on a bicycle.
But
But if our police department sees somebody doing something dangerous on a bicycle or a quad, they're going to stop them and say, "Hey, son, you can get killed running stop signs."
Yep, it's very dangerous. Concerns.
Well, it might be the thought just to keep the status quo, and if somebody needs to be lined out, they can be lined out, and otherwise.
Okay. And like I said, I was going to bring it back up with a different viewpoint of it this time and see how the city council felt. I know that we didn't pass it last time, but the last time we didn't have golf carts on there, and I was just curious about the golf carts. And that was my biggest concern, is that we did have people driving their golf carts down our city streets a little bit more lately than I've normally seen, and I was more heading down that road than I was the ATVs or the side-by-sides, and I just wanted to make sure that we had something in place. I just noticed that we're having a lot more of that, and just wanted to make sure we had some regulations.
One of the perfect scenarios that they mentioned today at staff as well was that we have regulations against driving a car without a driver's license, yet we stop people all the time for doing it. So I think the fact that we have that in place isn't going to keep those people from doing it. That's kind of another thought that actually came up today.
So,
Council Hall and Chief Teehee, I have a observation. I don't know if it would make better sense to Council Hall or not, but what if we looked at doing something that was only golf course was in certain proximity range to the golf courses that we have?
Or in the housing additions only?
All the housing additions, something, if it was restricted.
Right.
That...
and with all due respect, they're doing that now, and
Okay.
It's not an issue to us. I don't know of, very few calls do we have with those, because it's not those guys that are doing that aren't out there like the ones Ms. Stout's talking about that are being idiots. We get calls on those on occasion as well anyway, and even if this happens, it's not going to stop those idiots out there.
Yeah. And it's hard to hot rod a golf cart anyway.
Right. So that would make sense. But again, we're at a point where we don't concern ourselves with those in the neighborhoods and stuff like that for events as well anyway.
Okay. I just didn't want these people to get the legal people that really wanted just use their golf carts is what I was basically after. I just didn't want to see those people getting in trouble. And there was probably not going to be an issue unless they're doing something dangerous with it. So I can.
Okay, on item number 2, we've had some discussion back and forth. Do I have a motion?
I guess we can I make a motion to remove them?
You can take no action.
Take no action then?
Okay. So I have a motion to take no action on this item?
And if there is no action taken, then it will not move forward to City Council.
I'll second Council Hall if you're satisfied with that.
Okay, so I have a motion to take no action on item number 2, and I have a second. All those in favor of taking no action on this item?
We'll need roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 2 passes as taking no action on that item. Item number 3.
Consider approval of resolution number 2766, supporting expungement clinics to be offered by Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma, or take other necessary action.
Counselor Coleman.
Chairman and members of the committee, Mr. Tucker and I had the privilege several weeks ago of meeting with Ms. Teresa Webster, who is the director of our legal aid here in Muskogee, and we engaged in conversation with her and her staff about what we can do to work together as a city with legal aid to sponsor expungement clinics so that we can help those residents who need desperate help in getting their record together so that they can find more meaningful employment. And we had come up with this being a gateway to employment for hardworking Americans who have made restitution for their offenses, because across the country we have so many people that are good, hardworking citizens, yet they may have something on their record from when they were early on in life, and they need another opportunity to be able to do better, but they can't do it on their own because they can't afford the legal assistance. And so we engaged in conversation with legal aid to see how we can partner with them as a city to make certain that we have expungement clinics to help those people. And on the slide, we have some things that we know that it'll provide for those people in terms of assistance. It'll give them an opportunity for employment and housing. One of the things we discovered in meeting with Ms. Webster was that housing is an issue for people to have certain things on their records that haven't been expunged. These are people who work every day, who are doing well to try to provide for their families, but even housing is a barrier to them. And so we'd like to partner with them and offer our assistance as a city to be certain that they have access to the tools that they need to remove those items from their record. It also can help them with employment opportunities. We have a lot of our citizens here in Muskogee who are working odd-end jobs and not able to make jobs, apply for jobs even, to give them a living wage because of something that they have on their record. We want to do this because we believe it assists with the criminal justice reform across Oklahoma in particular. Right now, there is conversation about what we can do to look at how felonies are expunged, to maybe lighten those restrictions, not for those things that are violent offenses, but those things that could be considered misdemeanor offenses. Let me give you an example. 20 years ago, a resident here in Muskogee was arrested for having marijuana in his pocket. Well, 20 years ago, it was a felony, but now with the new reforms in Oklahoma, it's a misdemeanor. That individual will greatly benefit from having assistance in trying to have his record expunged. Felony expungement also diversifies the workforce because it gives people an opportunity to be in a workforce with a decent job, a decent opportunity, whereas now we have so many individuals that could help strengthen our workforce, but they're prohibited from doing so because they have certain things on their records that they can't get expunged. We're looking at this possibly increasing their wages because, as I stated earlier, we want to move people from working odd-end jobs to working in jobs that they can have a living wage for their family. And then finally, what this process will do is provide the legal assistance that's not readily accessible to them now to be able to have these opportunities. Legal aid is happy to coordinate those programs. We're looking at the late fall this year, if this passes today, to try to facilitate programs with them. Mr. Tucker is working with Teresa Webster to find out how we can get legal assistance from attorneys here in the city who would volunteer their time. And the city's involvement is more of not just to support the resolution, but if there are things that we can provide that we already have access to but haven't done through partnerships in the past, so that we can get this going together. And I think ultimately it's going to go a long way to us as a city taking a position that we want to be certain that our citizens at least have the opportunity to make a better wage here in our city by helping them to remove things from their record that don't need to be there anymore. And so, having said that, I'll take any questions prior to making my motion for approval.
Councilor Coleman, I really appreciate your work and appreciate our staff's work on this resolution. When Bridges Out of Poverty got the embedded attorney, that was a great step for our community, stepping forward. For the first time, I see Oklahoma actually moving forward, at reform instead of war on crime. I think it's been a war on our public at times. So I really think this is a great move forward, and I like to see the council involved in making a change as we have in the past. This is just taking it to the next level.
I have a question. Is this simple possession, or is this possession with other felonies involved with it? Like, When you have, say, a possession charge where they've committed other felonies with it, are we talking about expunging theirs? Like if they have a weapon involved, there's been shots fired, stuff like that, where they've been violent? Or are we just talking about simple possession here?
Mr. Tucker can correct me if I'm wrong, but according to the state guidelines, we can only do expungements for certain categories. And so these are categories that are nonviolent offenses. The types of possession, Mr. Tucker, I'm not sure, but they're restricted in terms of what we can do in accordance with the guidelines of the state. So these are mostly nonviolent offenses.
Right, that's true. The statute provides a laundry list of aspects of a criminal record that can be expunged. Most of them, or in fact all of them, are nonviolent. And the other thing that is part and parcel of getting an expungement is an application has to be made with the district court, and notification of that request for an expungement goes to the law enforcement agency who facilitated the arrest, the district attorney's office who prosecuted, and the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. All of those three agencies have the opportunity to file an objection to any request for an expungement, and then have their objections heard and decided on by the court. So there are safeguards that are already included within the statute allowing for expungement, but some of the examples that you articulated would not qualify for an expungement.
And that's the only concern when I was reading it that I had, is that, and is multiple possession charges, or is it just for like simple possession of marijuana, or does it get into meth? Does it get into barbiturates? Does it get into?
The statute doesn't distinguish between the different types of drug offenses. It just identifies them as drug offenses. So it doesn't articulate whether it's marijuana or methamphetamines or anything.
Okay.
And along those lines, Mr. Tucker, I want to also say that the way you explain that as an attorney is easy for many of us to grasp who don't have to go through that process. And one of the things that we hope this accomplishes is that it gives these individuals the knowledge that they need, because I know several people that when they hit the application process, they stop because it seems too complicated to go through OSBI, to go through the district attorney, and they just back off altogether. At least this way, they have the guidance and the direction that they need to say, here's what you need to do to start down the path. And not only start down the path, but here's the assistance we're willing to provide you to be certain that you get what you need to get your life in order.
And if I could add something to that, the first aspect of this was going to be a clinic, which was for informational purposes. So we're going to reach out to our contact with OSBI to invite him to come to the clinic to present information to individuals who are interested in expungement but don't know whether or not they qualify. And so he would be present, as well as folks from legal aid who would also be there to answer any questions and provide information, so that individuals who think, listen, I've got this issue on my criminal background that has affected my ability to get a job or to get a house, will I qualify for expungement? So they'll come and ask the similar questions to you, Counselor Hall, and then those attorneys will be there to say, yes, but, or no, you've got to wait a few more years, because in some of them there are statutory timelines. And of course, you know, at the end of the day, if an expungement won't work for someone, that's not necessarily the end of the road. Okay. I mean, there are also processes for applying for a pardon from the governor, and those are, I don't want to say freely given, but they are not as unascertainable as probably people think. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a fairly short application, and it goes and is reviewed and potentially granted by the governor as well.
Okay, because, I mean, if we got guys out there that made a couple mistakes in their life, I don't have a problem with them getting their life fixed and taken care of. If I got a guy that was manufacturing methamphetamines and giving them to kids at my school or other schools and giving them stuff, I ain't in favor of this at all.
If you are a habitual criminal, you are not going to qualify for an expungement of any type.
That's where the district attorney and they'll step up and say, you need to know a little bit more about this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and those are my questions. I mean, It sounds like a great program. I just don't want to let everybody off because we just got a big heart and we just want everybody to be happy again. But I still think that some people need to be where they're at.
Well, and one of the common things is, let's say somebody gets arrested. Let's say it's for a DUI. So they get arrested under suspicion of DUI. The blood alcohol comes back 0. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't get charged with DUI or the case gets dismissed. When a criminal background check is pulled, it'll show an arrest for DUI, which could disqualify you from some of these things, even though it was never charged and you weren't ever.
And this will remove that?
Yeah, it will seal the records. Yeah.
All right. Move for approval then.
Second.
Got a motion and a second on item number 3. Any other questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Hale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Item number 3 passes. That concludes our Public Works Committee meeting, but we do have one person signed up to speak in the citizens wishing to speak, and that would be Stephen Ezell, and it's not an agenda item. It's a safety concern for drivers at Davis Field. Mr. Ezell, if you would give us your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
On special call.
Thank you. Stephen Ezel, 6121 South 6th Street East. But before I go on, I wish to express to Councilmember Marlon Coleman my deepest thoughts and prayers and sympathies to him and his family on the recent loss of his brother.
Thank you.
And I want you to know, may God bless you, and I have been where you're at, sir.
Thank you so much.
Well, the safety concern I wish to address is that you are all aware, of course, of the road renovation that has occurred out at Davis Field, especially on the street on which I live. It's been completely repaved. Double lines have been placed on it. That's all nice and good. But the fact is still people still come faster on those curbs and on that street. And the one thing that's a big safety concern is that there is brush and stuff like that that is has grown up along that east side of the street itself, along the fence line of the old soccer field. Now, when people are, say, backing out of their driveways and stuff like that, it's hard for them to even see, even in daylight conditions, whether someone is or is not coming around that curb or whatnot, because the brush and so on that's grown up is obscuring their sight. It's even more dangerous so under low light and night light conditions. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be able to completely eliminate all accidents, but when there does exist a safety hazard that can and should be addressed, and it's not, an action is not taken on it, and an accident does happen, then we as a citizenry, as a council, would be liable. And also, I don't exactly find the idea of someone kind of being a fixture on my lawn or dying on my front lawn too appealing. So I believe that what needs to be done is that brush and a lot of that fencing, it needs to be taken down. That would at least, even if people still keep coming around the bend a little fast, at least people will be able to more or less at least see them coming. And I just want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ezell. Also, he had signed up to wish to speak to Mayor Boydston, Councilor Hall, and Mr. Miller after the meeting. Thank you. That will conclude our Public Works Committee meeting along with the citizens area to speak. Thank you.
And we will call to order the special call meeting of the City Council of May 20, 2019. Roll call, please.
Mayor Janie Boydston.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Hale.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Do we need to excuse Ivory?
No, it's only necessary for regular meetings.
Okay. Item 1, please.
Consider approval of ordinance number 4070A, amending the City of Muskogee Code of Ordinances, Chapter 18, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 4, Plumbing Code and Regulations, Division 3, Installation Standards for Water and Sewer Lines, amending Section 18-328, Sewer Connection, approval requiring installation of backwater prevention devices on new construction and reconnections, establishing authority for the creation of an assistance program for installation on existing construction, providing for repeal or codification, severability, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Tucker.
Mayor, members of the council, at this time, with your permission, I'd like to defer to our assistant planner and former chief building inspector, Dan Hurd, who he and I have worked closely with this in conjunction with planning and public works. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you, Dan.
Thank you, Roy. Manager, mayor, council members, I actually brought one for you to look at tonight. We don't usually keep these backwater devices, but this one just happened to be hanging around in our offices, was given to us by a supplier some years ago. Backwater valves are required by code in certain situations. Now, what we're asking you to do tonight is to require them on all sewer lines. All private, residential, and commercial lines would need one of these backwater valves on it. Basically, what a backwater valve is it allows the sewer to travel out, but it does not allow it to come back. It's a very simple device. It's not terribly expensive, but we didn't want to do this earlier on. We've actually worked on this for about 18 months, 2 years, but we didn't want to put that burden on our residents. And Roy has found, and as part of this ordinance, there is an assistance program that we're going to provide up to $500 for residents to put one of these in. And that's why we waited till this time to actually bring this in front of you. Well, I just lost my train of thought completely.
Let me add a couple things. Dan was talking about requiring these on new construction, or requiring these, and so the requirement would be only on new construction. The program that we would have is a reimbursement program, or a direct pay to a plumber for those living in residential areas with residential zoning to be able to install one. And if they install one, this grant, which is a $10,000 grant from Oklahoma Mutual Assurance Group, matched with a $10,000 set aside from the city. And if a resident wants to have a backflow preventer or backwater valve put on their residential sewer line, we will pay through this grant up to $500. So it's not, in this case, the homeowner wouldn't actually have to front the money, but we would actually pay directly to the plumber. That will allow us to ensure that it's installed properly, to be able to inspect it. And the reason why this is so important, and quite frankly, the reason that OMAG has done the set-aside, is because of the large number of tort claims that we get from sewer backups. And, you know, the sad thing is residents come in and they'll file a tort claim with the city claiming that they've had, due to a backup, they've got raw sewage running in the house. This would assist in preventing that if installed. A lot of times whenever we receive those, we'll send them to OMAG, who covers us, and as long as we've got a maintenance program on our sewer lines, chances are the liability is not going to be on the city and the claim will be denied. And then we have homeowners who have to bear the expense of having to clean up their properties where you've had this backup occur. And so this, of course, there's no guarantee in anything because a lot of factors depend on it, but this is effectively an insurance policy for preventing any of those backups. And I'd probably say our highest level of tort claims come from motor vehicle accidents, of course, and our second come from sewer backups. And, you know, when you've got a sewer backup claim, and our people who file claims are great about providing all kinds of photographic evidence and statements from plumbers, but the fact of the matter is we've got a substantial amount of coverage from liability provided under the Governmental Tort Claims Act for things like this. And so, you know, no matter how much we want to pay these claims and how sorry we feel for the residents, legal liability isn't necessarily on the city. And so this is one of those things we think will help with our residents and make it available for them to take advantage of. We've got, in fact, OMAG has been doing this on itself for a while. Some of the claims that they will deny, they will make an offer to the homeowner that says, you know, hey, if you'll put in one of these backflow preventers, we'll give you a refund of up to $500. And so what we're trying to do is utilize that in-house so we can work on advertising, getting this out to our residents, have the plumbing professionals who are familiar with the program and who can also recommend it to the residents. And so we think that in the long run, this will have a substantial reduction in the number of claims and will provide that additional level of insurance for homeowners. I don't know if any of you have renewed your homeowners policies lately, but on many policies, you have to make an affirmative ask for a sewer backup plan, or if you call your insurance company, they'll say you're not covered. And so these are a couple of the reasons why we wanted to bring this forward. And so Dan was gracious enough to bring a visual aid for us so we kind of know what we're talking about. But we did do some checking with other plumbing contractors, and $500 is kind of the going rate. It is on the low end, but we do think that there'll be plumbers who will do that. So,
Two questions.
Sure.
The clean out, I guess that's what that is on top?
Yes, this can ultimately be used as a clean out. In this particular model, this is removable, and that becomes your clean out. There are other models that don't allow for that, but this particular one does.
And that's going to be the homeowner's job to keep that cleaned out, I guess?
Yes, to maintain that.
Second, I noticed that was a plastic valve on the bottom there, on the bottom of the one inside,
Yeah.
that allows the backflow to stop.
Yes.
Question, how long is that thing going to last?
Typically 8 to 10 years.
Okay.
So it is something that they will have to maintain, and in the ordinance we do allow for that, as it is the property owner's necessity to maintain that.
And we won't have an incident, this will prevent the incident like we had somewhere here in town that I got like 20 phone calls on?
yes. You don't know what he's talking about. I do. Yes.
Okay.
I probably know what you're talking about. This will keep, when we do have a backup on our main, this will help keep from it backing 200 or 300 gallons of sewage into your house. That's the main goal of this particular piece of equipment.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes, sir.
Are those installed close to the house or out by the street?
Typically, they're going to take the place of your clean out, which is within 10 feet of your structure.
Mr. Tucker, I've got a question. So, for example, on the homes that have filed tort claims, that have had damage, would it be feasible for those residents, if they had to have the necessary plumbing done in their home to keep it from happening, that they might also be eligible to participate in the program?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. This isn't limited to people who've never filed a claim. This is available to everyone.
Okay, and I guess particularly not just new construction is what I'm saying.
Well, the
The grant program won't be available to new construction. It'll only be available to those that are existing construction in a replacement situation or in a backup situation like you talked
because
about.
as Dan told me, it's cheaper when you install that when you're installing the line versus having to install it after the line is already there.
Okay.
And so it wouldn't be quite the expense of $500 to install a new one as part of laying a plumbing line.
Ultimately, you're talking the difference between a $25 clean out and this particular piece of equipment's about $180.
Okay.
That can be absorbed in a new construction, whereas in a situation on an existing home, it may cost $500, $600, $700 depending on the terrain and what they run into in their excavation.
Right. Okay.
I'm really for it. I think this is, progress in our city. I know it's more and more regulations regarding it, but when you're looking at a potential disaster, anytime it occurs in your community and you have flooding, sometimes you're going to have you're going to have a mixing, and it would cause flooding that would go into residents. I guess my one concern that I have is on reconnections. That's where you're going to have people that are going to be lower on the poverty line, that's going to be on a reconnect, that here they're incurring this expense that they don't know. Now,
That's exactly why we have the assistance program.
We have it now.
To help them.
We have it now. What about in the future?
Well, it's not required retroactively.
It would be required on
going forward.
Going forward. But
this is a renewable
if
growth
you don't have it,
annually,
if you
if I
don't have it at
understand
your
correctly.
house, you won't be, we're not going to be penalizing you for not having it in the future. So
Yeah, if they have a reconnect, we're gonna require it.
Yes, it would be required going forward.
So we may not have a grant program in the future, and yet we may have somebody that doesn't have the funds, and this is a, $500 to $700 expense that they're going, I don't have the money for that. That is my only concern. Now, I agree. I think this is the right way of going. This is the right move for us. And I think that grant is going to be consumed pretty quickly. And the only concern is on the reconnect, because we're going to hit people in the poverty area.
From my research, we've averaged about 32 sewer improvements or new sewer connections annually over about the last 5 years. But to your thing there, I believe this grant is renewable annually for as long as we want to pursue it.
But at the end of it, if they don't have it open to us, then we're going to have people in poverty trying to do this. And I'm kind of with Councilman Johnson there, that some of the people in our community can't afford that.
Understandably.
And
that's why
we're
waited
adding
until
an-
there was this opportunity for an assistance program to bring it forth.
And it's easy for you to make that statement because you're not that person trying to pay for it.
Sure.
So,
How much is the grant, Mr. Tucker?
$20,000.
I wonder if it would be feasible for us to consider, for future years, not just with approval with this, that, if it's that kind of concern, maybe we can make that a part of our budget with the water section at some point if it becomes necessary. In other words, when grant funding runs out, we should have something in place where we can consider doing that.
I don't think we'd have to set aside a whole lot.
No.
But I think we would have to set aside some portion of this funding for the reconnect of those people that just wouldn't have it. And agree, and again, I'm for it. It's just I see a gap here that could occur, that you could have somebody that just can't reconnect.
And it could be income-based driven.
Absolutely.
So that we can...
Absolutely.
Maybe not all as part of this one item tonight, but maybe we have to bring back a separate item saying that, we need to put something together, because I think that Councilor Johnson and Councilor Hall are right, that given our financial demographics, we're going to come across people that just can't afford to do it. And if they qualify within a certain income range, if grant funds are not available, then we have some money set aside to be able to accomplish what needs to be done for them.
You could do that. I mean, it requires yearly budgeting in accordance with the Municipal Budget Act. I think maybe the other thing, and, it may be that it's something that we, look at and I mean, look at panhandling. We revise that every year based upon how things change. And so it may be that in this view of the ordinance, and Dan may tell me that it's a terrible idea, but it may be that we only require the mandate on new connections rather than on reconnections. I mean, that could be an optional thing. And so, the mandate would be that it would be on all new construction, and then we have the assistance program for either reconnections or just homeowners who want to install them. I mean, what kind of hardship would that?
I don't think that would create too much of a hardship if you were just requiring it on new construction to be installed today and on reconnections, as long as we have grant funding, and only required as grant funding is available.
So it would be optional then versus required for reconnections or homeowners with existing lines.
And then what we'll need is some type of reminder in the budget process to be certain that when grant funds are no longer available, we remember that we need to have these other funds. In other words, we need to know when it expires so that we can plan to put...
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Are there areas of town that are more prone to backflow than there are others, or is everybody equally?
No, and they're required in the code, where you have typically gradient terrain, where your lowest fixture is lower than the next downstream manhole. And we don't have a lot of gradient terrain here, but the areas just east of York, Bacone area, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that neighborhood there. Capitol Place, they're just north of Martin Luther King. It's another area that has some gradient terrain where it would be required in today's code. May not have been when those homes were built. But we don't have a large area here that really requires it.
And Councilor Kale, I'll tell you, if we're looking at just who files sewer backup claims, and just because somebody has a backup doesn't mean they file it. They might file it just with their homeowner's insurance because they've got that coverage. It's pretty widespread. I mean, we've got claims from Country Club, the middle of the city, all the way to the Honor Heights and the west side. So they're pretty uniform in where they occur. I wouldn't say, based upon claims, and that's all the information that I have to work with, that there's any one place that's worse than another.
Make a motion to approve item number 1 with the stipulation that the council re-review the reconnect when the grant has expired.
Second that motion.
And Mr. Deputy Mayor, does that also include making the reconnection optional and dependent on grant funding?
I would actually make it mandatory until the grant had expired, and then it would trigger for it to come back to the council for a review on the reconnect.
And we can certainly do that. I just want to make sure I understood.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
And I still second that.
Any further discussion or questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Yes, and the motion carries. Item 2.
Mayor, we do have an emergency that we're requesting on this as well, so it'll go into effect as soon as it's published, and we can open up the assistance program to those who may be affected.
Okay, do we have a
Move to
motion
declare
for
an emergency.
Second.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Yes, and the motion carries. The emergency carries. Item 2.
Pursuant to Section 307B.2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local Number 2465, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session.
Any questions or discussion? Roll call.
Make a motion, we go into executive session.
Second.
Pardon me. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs. Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Yes, the motion carries.
Councilman.
And we're back. Roll call, please.
Mayor Janey Boydston.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs. Here. Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 2, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss ongoing negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, Local Number 2465. After being briefed on issues related to negotiation and receiving staff direction, no further action is necessary at this time. Mayor?
Thank you. We are adjourned.